have bigger balls than Carl does. Take a minute. Hello, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton, and today, I'm gonna be talking about most disappointing and my worst books of the year. Luckily, I had a pretty good reading year. Well, currently I'm reading 2 books right now, but I've read 94 books. I think you're gonna have some stinkers if you read that many books. Like, they can't all be 3 to 4 to 5 stars. Big disclaimer. If you liked or loved any of the books that are on this list, I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad they worked for you. I wish they had worked for me. And I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but I'm gonna rant a little bit about some of these books. Reading is subjective. We can't all love, like, hate the same things. Go ahead and sit back and let's talk about my worst books of 2024. The first 2 are going to be more disappointments than they are I hated them. They're just overall big disappointments for me. The very first book on this list that I read earlier this year, beginning of this year, one of my first arcs, An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. Now, first thing, I did read Carmilla in preparation for reading this because I heard it was inspired by it, or like some type of reworking of it. I've come to the conclusion that I don't like retellings. If I didn't like the source material, I don't think I'm gonna like whatever the thing is that's created, which was this. Really, the only thing that it had in common with Carmilla was a vampiric aspect, an aspect of it, and the 2 main characters' name, Laura and Carmilla. This will come up again that I just don't think I'm a fan of retelling. That will come up in my worst books. I was promised dark academia, dueling poetry slams, sapphic yearning. Nope, none of that. Maybe just a smidge. A little smattering, if you will, of each, but not, I want to say it was over 300 pages. I actually don't remember. Also, it was supposed to be set in the 60s, but I didn't really get that vibe either. I just thought it was very shallow. I thought the vampiric aspect was really weak. I thought the conflict was really like pulled out of the air. I just didn't feel like it was a very good book. I was very bummed because obviously, I think like a lot of us, A Dowry in Blood was amazing. I loved that book, and now I'm like questioning it because that was one of my favorite books in 2023. Do I have to reread that? What was that? Was that like a fever dream? Did that really happen that that book was so awesome? But this was just not good. It was just lame. I feel like if you're gonna reinvent a text, I'm saying that, but I don't even know if I'd read it. If you're gonna reinvent a text and you're not going to bring anything new or exciting to the story or like flip it on its head, why even bother? I would have been much more interested, I feel like, if this was, I don't know, stood on its own more. It really didn't. It really faltered. It was on shaky legs and it was just dull. It was just very dull. Ugh. Man, I haven't read any of her other work. I know she had another book come out this year that I've also heard was mid, and she has another big release coming out in 2025. I don't know. I feel like I want to pick it up, but I also don't know because I was so disappointed. Maybe I'll library book it. The next book on this list. This is editing Peyton. I was so ready to rant even more that I didn't even say the title of the book or the author. Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, back to the video. This was a massive disappointment for me. Probably my biggest disappointment of the entire year, besides like one of the other worst books. Because I loved, when I closed out my 2023 best of books of the year, I had newly discovered in December Leigh Bardugo because I read Ninth House and Hellbent back to back. I was obsessed with it. I still am. I love those books. And I was so excited leading up to August of this year to read it. And it was just, Again, the vampiric aspect I feel like was really lame, and it wasn't even really vampiric. It was something else. The magic I felt like wasn't well executed or explained, and also felt like it wasn't really a magic system, if that makes sense, which may have been Leigh Bardugo's intent. Like, the cover was so enticing, like, it's gorgeous. The cover's like, it just, I don't know, it just made you think that it was going to be like this dark, brooding, vampiric fantasy novel, and it was more historical fiction than it was fantasy, and the romance was like so lame. I didn't care about it, and I feel like the book really didn't get started until like the 60% mark, and it wasn't a long book. I want to say it was a little bit over 350 pages, maybe. And so by the 60% mark, you have like this much to wrap everything up because it's a standalone, and there isn't going to be more. And it was quickly wrapped up and like bow on the end. The ending, I don't know. I just really wanted more out of it. It just felt like a very, saying it again, again, a very shallow story. Maybe because it was a standalone and Leigh Bardugo has, I think, primarily written series. Maybe this was tough. It was very different from what I read in Hellbent and I think what other people have read of her other books like Shadow and Bone. I feel like it needed like another 200 pages and like more time spent on it. I feel like my biggest complaint this year from authors I previously really loved their work, with the exception of maybe a couple, like they all felt rushed. They all felt like drafts. They didn't feel like as well plotted and executed as their previous work. And I don't know if it's like how publishing is now. Like they sign some contract where they have to have this book every year. I'd rather an author just be silent for years and then put out a banger than have something like continually churning year after year for these like mid-ass books. That's what I felt like a lot this year. The three big ones who I was like looking out for, Leigh Bardugo, S.T. Gibson, and Ava Reid, which she will appear later in this video. They just felt so rushed. They felt like drafts. They felt like drafts and it didn't feel like their true talent was shining. Anyway, alright, the last big disappointment I had was Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I read this October. Oh boy. Some of y'all saying, I've seen it in quite a few videos, especially on TikTok, this was the scariest book I've ever read. Man, I must either be numb as or just like cannot be shooketh because I didn't think any of this book was scary. I thought it was so boring. I didn't give a shit about any of the characters. I didn't really care about I was so bored. It was like, I think I just said it in my other video, it's like PG Paranormal Activity. And I think the big reason this faltered for me is because Bella, who's the main character, she's 8, but she read like she was 5 years old. I did not think she was 8 years old, was narrating the entire book. And I feel like that was like a risk that Josh Malerman took. It was not a good one. The main entity, like the lore and like why this is happening to Bella and her family was never really fully realized, and it just felt like lazy writing to not fully flesh that thing out. And maybe because it was again a 8-year-old who read like a 5-year-old's perspective. I swear to God, if I had to read Daddy-O one more time, I was gonna throw that book out the fucking window. Wasn't scary. It was boring. The ending was like, huh? I loved his the other 2 books I've read by him. I really liked them a lot. Like I loved Daphne. I loved Bird Box. I thought they were so well done and like action-packed horror, if that makes sense. Like I thought there was like, they were just fun to read. And this was not fun to read. It was not good. Yeah, I'm bummed. All right, now we're getting to the worst books I read this year. This one, I debated putting it on the list because I couldn't stand this book. I thought it was terrible. I should have DNF'd it, but I also can't remember a lot about it. It wasn't a memorable book. And that is A Happy Good Girl by Marissa Higgins. Tiny little book. Probably read it in an afternoon. Believe me, I am like so here for like gross, disgusting, depressing girl lit fic. Like totally like one of my favorite things. Otesha Moshfegh is I love that woman's writing. This felt like she was trying so hard to write like Otesha Moshfegh, but there was no substance to any of it. It was just so not memorable. It's about a young lawyer. She's pursuing this very emotionally intense relationship with this lesbian couple. Like it's all in her POV, which again, she's gross, she's yucky, she's like has bad hygiene, has horrible thoughts, and does horrible things that you're just like, why would you do that? But it doesn't go anywhere. The book doesn't go anywhere, and there's big parts of the plot, like there's stuff with her parents that like they were both in jail for neglect of her something happened with her younger brother. You never find out what that is. You never find out what that is. It's just like hinted at. Why would you even have that as part of synopsis? It's something to draw you in, like this horrible thing that your parents did. Why would you not even address it? And then there's the other thing with the author that also like turns a lot of people off. People review, like 1-star review bombed her on Goodreads. Long story short, somebody gave her a bad review on social media, which it happens. Here I am talking about this, and like if she comes after me, oh girl, I dare you. She like went hard after these, especially like this one person who wrote, it wasn't even like a scathing review. It was more just like, I didn't like this book and here are the reasons why, like a lot like I'm doing now. I feel like I'm saying much worse things, and she like tore them apart on social media, and now all of her accounts are private. So I don't know if she's gonna get another book deal. She probably shouldn't. I want to say it's like 220 pages. Didn't go anywhere. Cool, but maybe this was something in a workshop that she thought was good and somebody felt the need to publish it. I don't know. The only good thing about this is the cover is really good. I did really like the cover, but it was not a good book. The next book, I know fully well I am not the target audience, I feel like, for this book. And if you are, and you love this, great because I know it was a very popular book. That is Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I knew within the first 30 pages I was not gonna like this book. A goal of mine going into 2025, I'm gonna DNF books. I need to be better about DNFing books. I hate DNFing books because I feel like I shouldn't even be talking about them. I feel bad about it because I feel like I can't give a strong enough review if I DNF a book, and I feel like I didn't spend enough time with it. I didn't get to the end, but like I wasted time on some of these books when I could have been reading something really good. It's about two serial killers, Butcher and Blackbird, who kill serial killers. I swear, like, they were described as like the hottest people on earth because they were good serial killers. And all the bad serial killers were described as like ugly, pimple-ridden, fat, balding, like, because only hot serial killers can be the good kind of serial killers. And there's all these big time jumps between when they meet up, and even how they meet each other is like very much like this. What? It's just stupid. There's all these big time jumps between when they run into each other or meet for this game they have going on. And it feels like a lot of their banter and like romantic entangling is off page, and you're just like, so none of their relationship felt for me like really substantial. And they call each other Butcher and Blackbird like the whole novel. And it's just like, oh my god. I don't even know what their real names are. Know what their real names are. I know they have real names. And I listened to it on audio. That is it. The audio performances by the two main characters, I can't remember their name, but that was like, they were great. This book is not good. It's so poorly written. Their banter's like so childish, and they say like something about cooties, and like, it was like teenage boys. It was like listening to like 12-year-old boys like cooties and like boobies. I was like blown away. Like, this is so annoying. This was such an annoying book to read. Holy shit. Oh my god. Like, take a minute. The 50% mark onward, it was just smut. And I found that out about myself as a reader. I don't want to read endless pages of smut. I don't care. That does nothing for me. I want plot, story, character development. I know that's like a big part of dark romance, but it's just not for me. Second to last bad book. This was a disappointment, but also like it was a really bad book. Man, I was really bummed out this one because like I pre-ordered it. I got a special edition. It was signed. I was so hyped. Oh, what a letdown. All the Fiends of Hell by L.G. Neville. Okay, I have only read, and it's crazy because the other book by him that I love, Last Days, scared the shit out of me. One of the best horror books I've ever read. He's mainly written folk horror, which I think he does really well. I get authors wanting to try new things, but if you're really good at something, I don't know if you should stray so far away from or if you do it well. This is more of a cosmic horror about this day where these aliens invade, and it's mainly focusing on this guy who's like nothing special, really uninspired, average Joe, underdog, not particularly smart or strong or brave. And then he also finds these two orphans, and they're like trying to survive this wasteland that is now like taken over by these cat-like aliens that are like invisible, but you can kind of see them. They look a lot like the cover, but they're like more like milky white, and they like I don't know. The main problem I had with this, it was a pretty long book. It was like, I want to say like, it was only 400 pages. I'm sorry, it felt like 800 pages. It was such a slog. It was so boring. I love post-apocalyptic books. I do. Like, I really do. But man, there are some bad ones out there, and this, for me, has joined the ranks of not good post-apocalyptic. And the main guy, I can't even tell you what his name was. Carl. Was so, if you have an underdog and you write them well, love it. Like, he's not like the strong, buff, brave guy. He was so annoying and so stupid. I have bigger balls than Carl does. I would do so much better than him in this situation. He's just supposed to be ordinary and unexceptional and all this stuff, but man, could you have given me a protagonist I give less of a shit about? Oh my god. And I was so bored. I was slogging through this. I read this for Summerween, I think, and oh my god, I almost stopped the whole video because I was like, it's taking me so long to read this book. I don't want to read it. I should have just DNF'd, but I was like, I had a special edition, it's signed, I have to finish it. Never doing that again. Okay, and the last book I have to talk about, which was also a big disappointment, but also a really, really bad book. You probably already know what it is because I've already gone on a tear about this before. Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I read 2 of her books this year, A Study in Drowning and Juniper and Thorn. Loved. Loved her writing, loved her storytelling, loved the world she built, characters, their developments. They were such good characters to root for. Like, I loved it so much. Again, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of retellings because I know Macbeth really well, and Lady Macbeth is one of the best characters he ever came up with. She's cunning, she's smart, she uses the men around her for her own gain to get shit done. And here we have Lady Macbeth's version. One, she's 17. Why? And they introduce, like, it's supposed to be more witchy, more mystical, because her eyes are supposed to invoke fear and madness in men, so she wears this veil. Like, that's cool. That's interesting. And I was like, all right, I'm really, like, excited. I was so excited. I picked it up. I was so ready. I hunkered down and read it almost in one sitting. It's like a little bit over 200 pages. Wow. How you can take such a strong female character and turn her into this bumbling, useless, helpless. She needs the men around her. All the men in this, even like the love interest, which I felt like was shoehorned in, like the love interest like doesn't really show up until much later in the book, and the fantasy element also doesn't show up till much later in the book. And by that point, it just felt like a forced thing. Like, oh, I have to make this book fantasy. Because right now it's just this watered down version of Macbeth with a difference here and a difference there that didn't bring anything new or cool to the story of Macbeth. I feel like if you have no interest in reading Macbeth or have no prior knowledge, you'll probably like this. I just thought it was such a letdown. Her talent, Ava Reid's talent, did not come through in any of this. It felt very rushed. It felt underdeveloped. A lot of the aspects, the fantasy, the romance, the magic, like the conflict, it all felt so stale and underdeveloped. My main takeaway from this book: women good, men bad. Really? You're gonna take a story like Macbeth, which awesome characters, awesome plot twists, witches and magic, backstabbing and politics, and to turn it into this student short film? I don't know if that's the right word with it. It was just roskilde. She just felt, she wasn't anyone special to root for. She was being used like at every turn. Even her love interest was at some point using her. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't talk about a book I wanted to chuck across the room when I finished it. Like, through the window, across the state, into the ocean. Man, I think I held back a little bit in this, but I think I got my points across. Like I said, if you love these books, I'm so happy for you. They just didn't work for me. All right, I'm done. What was the worst book you read this year? Put it down below. And if you can't think of anything else to say, go ahead and put the fire emoji. I hope you have a lovely holiday, however you choose to celebrate, with others or yourself or with your pets, with your loved ones, with your found family. I hope it's a great, great holiday. You eat a lot of good food and stay warm and snuggle. Just rest. I need to rest. I've gone through it these last 6 months, and I cannot wait just to be with my family, my loved ones, and my pets, and eat my mom's cooking. I'm so excited. But I will see you all next week for my best books of 2024. Thank you so much for clicking. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!